you ever wondered where to start when marketing your music? Well, if you have, then you'll definitely want to check out our featured conversation with Greg Lee from Imagination. We discuss the most effective ways to identify who your target audience is, as well as the questions you need to be asking yourself before starting to market your music, and much, much more. Coming up.
This episode of the MUBUTV Insider video series is brought to you by the Music Business Registry. The Music Business Registry is the leading music industry publisher of the most up-to-date contact information for major and independent record label A&R, music publishers, artist managers, music attorneys, music supervisors, and much, much more. The Music Business Registry is the trusted industry standard and source serving the music business community for over 30 years with the most accurate and up-to-date contact information available. Their titles include the A&R Registry, the Film and Television Music Guide, the Music Publisher Registry, and the Music Attorney Registry. All of their publications are available in PDF, CSV, or online subscription. Visit musicregistry.com and use coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout. That's musicregistry.com, coupon code MUBUTV10. When you're ready to put your music to work, musicregistry.com.
Hi, this is Ritch Esra from MUBUTV, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage recording artists and music business professionals who are dedicated to having a successful career in the music industry. We're coming to you from Muse Expo here in Burbank, California, where we caught up with Greg Lee, the CEO of Imagination. Greg, thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, no problem. Good to see you.
It's great to see you too. And you know, in so many of our conversations, one of the themes that keeps coming up is that we live in an attention economy today. And I'm curious, has that shifted the way that you choose to market music in today's day and age?
Oh, totally. It's the key word is attention, like you said. It's short attention. If you look at data that's out there, that's available, your average time spent looking at anything like a video, for instance, is a mere maybe 15, 16 seconds. That's not even a full video. Which always makes me think, maybe a music video should be shorter and you put all your hooks at the beginning. I don't know. But it just tells you people's attention span is really short. Same thing on Facebook or any of the other platforms. I kind of think that a lot of it has to do with the way people are consuming the content, which is through their phones. And everything's a click away. So it's almost like a remote control, right? I think people are geared to, with remote controls, to click if they don't like something. It's the same thing that's happening with social media.
Okay.
It's a click.
Given that, then what would be some of the most effective ways that you can tell us that artists, music artists, can use to market their music today? What are some of the ways that you feel are the most effective?
I think you got to be organic, first of all. So it can't be paid. You can do paid promoted boosts just to get in the games, get in the game. Think of it think of it like grocery stores and products. It's positioning. How do you position your music and your image, what you stand for? Whether you're a Bruce Springsteen or you're a Pink or a Justin Bieber, you got to stand for something, because we live in this world where there's so many options. There's a million options, and that also attributes to the short attention span. When you're at a all-you-can-eat buffet, you're looking around and there's like all these great things to eat, and you're going, I'll take this, this, and this, and that's sort of what it's like now for music consumers. They're on an all-you-can-eat buffet at Spotify and YouTube, and it doesn't cost them anything. So how do you monetize? How do you get on the map and become relevant? The one thing that hasn't changed, you have to have a hit record. You got to have a song. You got to have a song that resonates. You got to have a song that makes people want to move or engage with you or reach you or share your music. That's not easy, but we all know there are hit songs. And some of them may be on the radio. Radio is still an important part of the process, but it's not the only process. It's not really first base anymore because, again, people have so many choices and options. So how do you become relevant? Again, have a hit song, have music that matters, stand for something. There's a lot of artists that don't even know who their target audience is. When I take on a project, I say, who is your audience? I don't know. How do you not know? Who do you want to reach? Who is your customer? That's just basic business, right? And you could be selling cameras. You still got to know who your business is, right? Who your customer is. So identify your customer, define where they're at. If it's Facebook, it's Instagram, Twitter, whatever. And each of the social media platforms have different communities, right?
That's an important quality. Can you
Yeah,
talk? Because
yeah.
most people think social media, it's like one size fits all. And you've just pointed out that is not true at all. They have different communities.
I like to equate social media and the platforms like different malls. Each of them have a million little communities within their mall, but they're all under one roof. So when you click YouTube, everything's a click away. Again, it's searchable. Everything's searchable by keywords and tags. So a lot of people don't realize on YouTube, when you're putting a YouTube video up there, you have the option to tag and put identifiers in your description. They're hidden from the public, but when people type in Ritch Esra or MUBUTV, bam, your videos come up in the search. It's another way. To answer the original question, that's another way to get on the map with a listener or a fan. Make it easy for them to find you. You'd be amazed how many people will put up stuff in social media and there's no link to buy the album or stream the album or to their website. Or you go to the website and there's no music and you're a music artist. So a lot of it is just basic common sense. They got to think it through, got to have patience, realize nothing happens overnight. And again, you got to have great songs.
Let me ask you, how, you've touched on a lot of very interesting points here, but one that I want to pursue with you is, how does an artist determine, if they're starting out, who their audience is or who they want to reach?
Well, initially it's old school by doing shows. Who shows up? Now we live in this world where, you maybe don't even have to go to clubs. I actually have some artists that live in different countries and they want to tour America. And I said, well, before you do that, you need an audience, right? Maybe you develop that audience, you can still perform, but we live in a streaming world. So you could actually set up a green screen in your garage and make it look like you're in a club and go do a Facebook Live. How much does that cost? Nothing, really, not that much, if anything. So there's little inventive ways. You just have to really think it through and think of, how do I reach these people? And then, so if you're not doing live shows to determine who your audience is, you can look at your social follows. Who's following you? Who's commenting? When people engage, what are they saying about you? And who are these people? And it's really, I have a blues artist I'm working with right now. And I saw him perform live for the first time. And I had to laugh. I'm looking at the audience, and they're all like 45 through 60 on up. Much older, baby boomers, really. But these were people that grew up in the vinyl era. These are people that grew up in the physical content era. Yeah. And they bought CDs at the show. So there's still a market for that. It's just knowing, again, who your market is. This artist, the blues artist, a lot of artists don't make physical product anymore. But in his case, after I saw who his audience was, I said, by all means, you need to do physical, if anything, to sell on the road. And that's still a viable way. And people aren't, the general public, CD sales, physical sales, and even digital sales are down so low, it's almost ridiculous.
Yeah, it's almost as if we're in a world where there's no there's no point in selling you music when you can access whatever you want for free, or for a minimal, for $9.99 you get the entire history of recorded music at your fingertips.
It's like if we were in a Superman comic book, this would be a bizarro world. Everything's opposite, the way it used to be. It's completely upside down.
Can you talk about some of the more interesting ways that you know of in your work that engagement creates value for an artist?
Well, that comes just as a part of fan building. engaging the fans. And it's not easy. Again, do you have something to say? There's some artists that really don't have anything to say. I hate to say that, but they don't.
No, it's an interesting point. I mean, I wanted to ask you if you feel today, because you touched on this before in a previous answer, if you feel that today the narrative, the personal narrative of who and what an artist is and what they're about, where they've come from, is almost just as important as their music.
Oh, yeah. And plus we're in a new generation of music artists that are sort of electronically empowered, or digitally empowered. That's where the world they come from. My daughter goes and pays $50 for a ticket to go see a guy on a laptop at EDM concerts. But that's the world that they live in. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the paradigm has changed. So if anything, in terms of being an artist, you got to realize the game has changed. The market's changed. The way you make money has changed. You can't even really look at it in most cases and trying to sell physical or digital product anymore. You almost have to find other inventive ways to make money. I even have some artists that sell USB thumb drives where they sell outtakes and lyrics and videos and B-roll, that kind of stuff for the true fans. That's another way to engage fans. And when you realize you have a loyal fan base, even if it's 20 people, those 20 people probably know 20 more people, and that's 40. And those 40 people probably know another 20 people, and that's 60. And it grows on. You have to look at it like that.
No, I hear you.
It all starts with one.
Yeah.
I often tell my artists that it's like building a house. You start with the first nail, and you nail it into the wood. Then you get another piece of wood until you get a frame. But you've got to build the framework first before you put a roof on it and before you move in. There's all these steps. There's a strategy and a timeline. And again, that's another thing a lot of artists don't think about. It's not cheap to become an artist, right?
Talk about that.
Yeah. A good number of artists will cobble together whatever money they can get from family, friends, whatever, and they go in the studio and make a record. And then they make this great record, but they don't have any money left to market it or promote it. And they don't know what to do. So there are tons of records sitting out there, projects, that go nowhere, that because they don't have the money to take it to the next level. So part of it is budgeting and having the foresight to look at the big picture, which is more than just recording a great record and a great song. What are you going to do with it?
And how are you going to do it?
I worked with an artist that actually is pretty notable that I worked with when I was at Warner Brothers. And she came to me just about a year and a half ago with exactly 24 songs. She goes, "This is my Beatles White Album." And I said, "You know what? I listened to it. You're pretty close. This is really, really good. But we live in an economy where nobody's buying double albums, let alone single albums. What if we put out just singles? It's a singles market." I grew up in the era with the Beatles where they put out 45s every couple of weeks or every month. And every one of them was A+. It was amazing. And it set a standard, and it also, I think, improved the market. Everybody else had to compete with these great records they were putting out. So if they were going to compete, they had to have good records too, the Stones and whoever else. But it's sort of returned to that era. Everything is a song, all about a song now. Spotify, you go on and you're listening to songs. You're building playlists. You have the ability now, everybody is a DJ. Everybody makes a playlist, and that's sort of become the new flavor of the month, so to speak, in terms of marketing and promotion. It's getting on playlists. But like anything, you have to look deep into what the strategy is. Getting on a playlist is great, but there's no guarantee that your audience is actually listening to it from that playlist, or that it generates income, or that it generates new followers. And are you speaking to your audience? Again, positioning, right? So you can be on Joe Blow's playlist and he may have 1 million followers, but there's no guarantees. So, and there's people paying to get on these playlists. I devised a strategy where I just sort of looked at it and I thought about it for a minute and I said, If you're an artist on Spotify, you have what's called an artist account. So you go into your own account, the Ritch Esra is an artist, and I make my own playlist. And I put in music that's similar to my Ritch Esra album, and I put in a few Ritch Esra songs. And then what I do is then I take the link and I put it out through my social media. So it goes to people that are most apt to buy. This goes with that saying that I use a lot on my social media, fish where the fish are. If you're trying to catch salmon, why are you putting your line where the trout are? It's positioning. Just like when you go to the grocery store. If you're looking for cheese, do you go to the meat section? Of course not. People have expectations on where to find things. Now everything is searchable, but still, again, make it easy for people to find it.
Okay.
Right? So
makes total sense.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Do you find that in this era that we live in today, that artists or clients of yours, could be even beginning professionals, are not aware of the vastness of the changes that you've been speaking about?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, it's overwhelming. And you have even executives from the past, former presidents. I have a client that's a former major label president. And it was an eye-opener to realize that we don't need a Sony or a Warner's or a Universal to distribute our music now. We can do it off of our iPhones and upload the music and do it ourselves. And that's the world we live in now. Mm-hmm. And so part of the audience understands that. The other part, the older part, is kind of grasping that and learning that. But if you have the smarts and the wherewithal and you can build a team, you can do it yourself now. And that's one good thing that's come out of all these technology changes, is it's allowed. It's the labels aren't the gatekeepers anymore. They don't define what is a hit or not a hit. Now the audience has, and that's not just for music. Same for books. Same for movies. Amazon. You can have a New York Times bestseller or a book review in the New York Times list. But the main reviews that make sense to selling the books are from average consumers. Comments on Facebook or comments on Instagram. It doesn't matter who the person is. It's just the playing field's been leveled.
It's been said, I heard an expression about this, which I thought summed it up beautifully. It's that the good news for creatives today is that there are no more gatekeepers.
Yeah.
The bad news is that there are no more gates.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that's what you've been articulating, is that,
It's kind of like Woodstock. The gates, the fence came down and everybody's flown onto the field. Yeah,
right,
it is.
Exactly. And now there's no more gates. There's nobody saying, you get the deal, you don't. It's just this free-for-all.
And it's overwhelming, for the major labels as well. They don't know what to do with it, And in a lot of cases, and I think it's the only thing that they know what to do is follow the leader, follow where there is success. At least there's a strategy and it's been proven. Because there's so many unknowns out there,
Yeah, there are. And that's why I'm asking the question, because I think, what we're trying to do here is educate artists into the kinds of questions they need to be asking themselves, the kinds of things they need to be knowing about their art and their music to make the right decisions in terms of proceeding, rather than just, hey, Greg, I made an album. Now what? This is, it's like you've got to think all of these points
It's through. Really not much different than movies or books. It's culture. It's pop culture. And I've been real blessed to work, besides music, with a lot of famous authors. Erica Jong, the famous feminist, was a client of mine. She wrote the book Fear of Flying. But she wasn't in the digital world. There was no ebook for Fear of Flying. So that's a new audience. So it just really depends where you're coming from. But that's all, again, what do you stand for? What is your mission statement? What are you about? Why should people follow you? Give them a reason to follow you or connect with you online. And if it's just a song, then so be it. Then it's just a song. And each platform is different. YouTube, it's an Instagram, or it's a visual platform. So you have a little extra thing, so you're not just hearing a song, you're seeing something. And then you have the advent of lyric videos, which takes it another step further, where you can get deeper into what they're trying to say. But it's also spawned a marketing thing where kids are learning the lyrics and then copying the songs and making their own videos. Mm-hmm. And you have a sub-cottage industry of websites like genius.com that archive the lyrics. And sometimes the lyrics aren't even correct. It could be a fan putting the lyrics up, and they may have it wrong. But again, that's just sort of the nature of the gates have come down. Anybody can participate.
Yeah, it's funny. As you were speaking, a quote is coming to mind that Bob Lefsetz once said, which I thought was so true. And your comments reminded me of it, where he said, the problem for music artists today is not to worry about, higher and higher Spotify payments. That's not the problem. Yeah. The problem today is obscurity.
Oh, yeah.
That's the real problem. And and you're talking about that of ways
obscurity and shelf life. Again, this sort of relates back to grocery stores and product. Mm-hmm. And I've always hated the idea of thinking of music as product, but theoretically to customers, it really is. It's something you buy, right? Yeah. And shelf life is important. If you're in a can, your shelf life is a little bit longer. But if you're music, it's very disposable, because we live in an economy now where there's new product coming out every Friday, and they listen to it. And if it's an album, most people don't listen to a full album. They're on their phone, 90% of them are, and they're clicking through a track or two. Boom, they're on the next one, boom. And you can be Drake and you're gone the next week, or you're down in streams. Yeah. And again, that is where a hit single comes in to keep it relevant, keep it in people's consciousness, in the public eye. You add a music video to that, maybe a tour, then you're more relevant. You're constantly on people's radars. But again, it's not easy. It takes a lot of money to stay relevant and stay visible.
And even if you do have a lot of money, it's still
how to do it right. You do it right. Yeah. People don't realize, when you see Taylor Swift on all these different magazine covers, they pitched those covers months and months and months ago. Those things are usually done 4 or 5 months in advance. In most cases, before the record's even out, right? So there's a lot of work that has to be done before a record even comes out, maybe while it's still being recorded in the studio. So you have to look at a really long game plan and timeline when you're doing that.
If you had the power to change one thing in the music business today, what would it be?
Oh, God. I don't know. That's a tough question. I don't know if I could answer that. Okay. I like the ability that everybody has a chance now. I think if there was one thing I'd change, I'd love to see our government, empower and inspire the arts like they do in Canada, where radio stations are required to play a certain percentage of Canadian content. But the Canadian government also finances recording projects. Mm-hmm. I have a Canadian client that got $40,000 to make her record, and then another $30,000 to market it. Mm-hmm. But they had to hire all Canadian artists. But it's a way to stimulate the market, but to put something back into the industry. Right now everything's on the back of the artist, right? And some of the angst and some of the struggles, and you go back, and some of the greatest artists, whether a blues artist or a folk singer or a protest singer, whether it's Pete Seeger or it's Woody Guthrie or Bob Dylan, on up, they all sort of stood for something, and they all had to suffer. I don't think you should have to suffer, but if you've got something to say, and a relevant way to say it, an appropriate way to say it, we now live in a world where you can say it. There's a platform to put it out there. The key is, how do you get the eyeballs? And again, it's going back to knowing who your audience is, defining where they're at, and then giving them the content and letting the magic happen from there. There is no magic wand. I wish I could say there was. There's no magic formula. There's no amount of money that you can spend that guarantees a hit. You know, Quincy Jones once told me when I was at Warner's, a hit record is the same song it was the day it was recorded as it is the day it goes to number one. The only thing that changes is the amount of people that were exposed to it and got to hear it and liked it. It's still the same song. And it could have been a stiff record if nobody heard it. Mm-hmm. And to us, knowing the song, we would still think it is a hit. But again, it's all marketing, it's all exposure, it's impressions. And that's the thing, you have one chance to make a great first impression. That's what they teach you in advertising school, right? It's not the steak, it's the sizzle. You know, it's all the different little sayings. And I learned all this stuff in college, and I've never forgotten that. But then again, it still comes down to what's in the package. Is it exciting enough for people to want to talk about it? And will they talk about it? I'll give you a good example. Right now, there's a movie on Netflix that they did really great pre-promotion. The Dirt, the Motley Crue picture. Whether you love Motley Crue or not, if you're in the music business, most likely you have seen it or you are about to see it. And everybody's talking about it. Did Bohemian Rhapsody and the Queen movie open the doors for that? Yeah, definitely. And now you've got the Rocket Man movie coming up from Elton John and God knows whatever else is in the wings. Oh. But, you know, those kind of things also educate people, I think. It may not be 100% like it was. I knew a lot of people in that movie, which is kind of interesting, you know. But have you seen The Dirt? Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I have.
What'd you think of it?
Yeah. I thought it could be better done. I didn't like the way they portrayed Tom Zutaut.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going.
Tom Zutaut is not a goofy guy.
He doesn't look at all like him.
Look, but just the whole tone of his character.
Yeah.
Tom's not like this goofy, hey, I really like you. That's not Tom.
No,
I just feel it's an
Pete.
authentic portrayal of the real person. That's all.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest complaint. Knowing, for those of us that know Tom Zutaut.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, Greg, for someone who's interested in a career like you have in marketing music today, what pieces of advice would you have for them in terms of pursuing that path?
I would not let money stand in the way. I would take jobs or intern or do whatever you got to do to get yourself in the door. I started out thinking I was going to be a graphic designer in the business. I have a degree in graphic design as well as marketing. And I went to a concert company and asked them who was doing their posters. I walked in cold call, but I walked in with a portfolio and they said, we already have a guy. And I said, I'll do it for free. And they said, okay, we'll try you out for a month. And they fired their other guy and that got me in the door. So yeah, you have to use a little ingenuity, but that led me to other things. So you've got to be inventive about getting in the door, but also open yourself up to not being too proud to do jobs that maybe you aren't glamorous. At 19, I was a road manager. I had never done that, but I learned how to get bands on and off stage, how to get them in hotels, how to get them out of hotel rooms. Okay. Everything you see in that Motley Crue movie. I was one of those guys at 19 years old. So I learned a lot. The only thing I've never done is worked in a record store, but I've done almost all the different jobs in the business. So that gives you insight. That also makes you more valuable to customers or your clients because you have a vision, and experience.
Okay. For our recording artists who are watching this, who are beginning their careers in music, what pieces of advice would you have that are the most pertinent for starting their career as recording artists who want to pursue this professionally?
Think of it as a long-range plan. If it's going to be your career, you got to invest in your future. Invest in the education to learn everything you can. You and I met through Musicians Institute, and I would highly recommend people going there or LA College of Music in Pasadena. Both two really good places. And I've met a lot of really interesting students that really want to get in the business. And they're doing the right thing by getting in and learning from professionals, learning the pitfalls also, the good and the bad, but get educated. And then find a way to cobbled together enough money to do what you want to do. It's not going to be easy. It never is easy. But, I think success, if it comes, it means more when you've had to work harder, Is life like Star is Born with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga? A little bit, not 100%, but there's a lot of wisdom in all of that. People struggle, and there are people that never make it, but there are people that do make it. And I find, in fact, through MI and through LA College of Music, I found a lot of music students that really have amazing potential. Amazing. They're as good as anybody that's got a record out. They just need direction. So accept advice, accept direction, and try to find a mentor. Find people in the business that say things that resonate with you and watch what they do. And it maybe not even in music, maybe in technology. Technology, a guy like Benji Rogers, which, right, we know about Benji. Other people like that are what you would call influencers. They will teach you just by their actions and by what they do. Subscribe to blogs or their email blasts. But again, it's all knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Wow. What an incredibly insightful interview with Greg. A lot of great value in there for you regarding marketing your music. So, insiders, here's the question of the day. What really stood out to you in our conversation with Greg? Was it the specific questions you need to be asking yourself before you start to market your music? Was it the concept of the attention economy and how that affects how you market and where you market your music? Or was it learning the most effective ways that you can identify who your target audience is? We'd love to hear from you and connect in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to MUBUTV for more information on how to educate, empower, and engage your music career. You can also check out a summary of this episode and everything we talked about in the YouTube description as well. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd really love it if you hit the like button and let us know what other kinds of videos and types of content you want to see on our channel. Hit us up in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.